Guys, come on. Go. Keep it rolling.
Yeah. Bomb shelter.
Avi Yemini for Rebel News in Kiryat Gat, southern Israel. Behind me, a makeshift command centre for an army of volunteer ambulance and paramedics who have deployed here in southern Israel from the early days of the horrific terror attack seen in the communities surrounding. So tell us, how many volunteers are there?
In here at Yoav specifically,
It's general from United Hatzalah.
United Hatzalah has 7,000 volunteers. There are people who work for Hatzalah, but those are more the logistics side. In terms of being an EMT and a paramedic, in Hatzalah, it's all volunteer. So we all have our jobs, and then in the middle of the day, if there's a call arises, you go and respond to the call, you take time off of work, and you do what's needed. So,
it's quite evident just looking around that many of the people here that are volunteering are what I consider ultra-Orthodox Jews. You generally don't see many of them in the army. It's a broad spectrum.
Very broad spectrum. Like right now, I think you're seeing more of a concentration of the Orthodox Jews, of the ultra-Orthodox Jews, because a lot of volunteers have been drafted and they're all over the country.
There were, if you turn around and see those pallets over there, those are the empty leftover pallets. This whole place was filled with pallets of water, of dry goods, food. There was clothing.
Toilet paper.
There were, all of those things. And there were volunteers from the nearby communities that were coming, along with our own logistics people, under the direction of our logistics people, to pack things up for families that were displaced from Sderot and from other communities here. They were taken to hotels without anything, or to other families without any of their own belongings. And Ichud Hatzalah took care of creating care packages for those families and for soldiers who also were brought so quickly to their bases. They didn't have time to prepare, and the bases didn't have time to prepare, so they were bringing things also for the soldiers.
Guys, come on. Keep it rolling. Benji in. Just turn it around.
So now, as a court in Kiryat Gat, we have in the whole area a lot of rockets. A lot of rockets. Now we are in
Bomb shelter.
Bomb shelter. This is a portable bomb shelter that can be taken to places as needed. One of the things you learn the more you're here is, like, before the war started, I didn't know this, but you learn how to differentiate between the boom of the Iron Dome intercepting a rocket versus the boom of it landing versus the boom of the sonic booms of the planes going overhead. It's like something I never thought I'd have to learn to differentiate between, but it's the reality of life nowadays.
So the paramedics are now waiting to see if there's any injuries that they need to respond to from the last rocket attack here in the local area and the wider. כמה מרחק זה הולך? Okay, so they have a whole team working the whole southern Israel at the moment. Now they're on standby. They're preparing to see if there's any need to send out an ambulance to deal with any potential injuries from that last rocket attack.
So here we have the, anytime an ambulance comes back from a shift, they'll be like, okay, we used 2 trauma bandages and a thermal blanket. We need to refill it. So they'll go to him. He inputs the information into the computer, and we'll refill the equipment as necessary. As you can see, there's a plethora of various types of equipment. There's oxygen, there's gloves, there's vomit bags, there's needle sharp containers, everything you need for CPR, neck braces, like anything an EMT will use in the field or the paramedics will use in the field, and the ambulances can come here and refill their equipment. And the Hamas, when they came, they didn't care about Jews, Arab, Thailandi. You're here in Israel, they just killed everyone or attacked everyone. Without differentiation, they just here to like murder and massacre. And the doctor that was shot was an Arab. The Hatzalah volunteer in Be'eri that was killed was also an heir from up north who was working at the party as a security guard. And they didn't care. Here in Hatzalah, we all volunteer together, and we don't differentiate between religion or race. And Hamas, they just killed anyone who was in their way. They didn't care, and it's horrific and heart-wrenching.
Because I feel that this is one of the best ways that I can give back to the people of Israel. I moved to Israel 2 years ago from Baltimore, Maryland. I was a medic in Maryland for about 10 years, and I felt that this was really something that, thank God, I'm good at, and something that I really felt like I could give back to Israel. And that's really why I became a volunteer and why I started to help here.
What would you say to people around the world that don't have any sympathy? They say, well, look at the Palestinian suffering in Gaza right now.
I would say honestly that I don't want anybody to suffer. And it's horrible to hear of Palestinian suffering as well. But at the end of the day, that is the people who are to blame for that is solely Hamas. When they choose to put their munitions around civilians, when they choose to implant themselves in the neighborhoods that civilians live in, there is nothing else that a nation can do. You know, the most important thing that we have to do is we have to disable Hamas from ever being able to do something like this again. And the blame solely lies on Hamas for using their own people to take bombs.
If you think it's important for the world to see the faces and the work of the unsung heroes here in southern Israel, make sure to like, comment, but most importantly, share it far and wide, because you won't hear this anywhere else. And then head over to thetruthaboutthewar.com. Follow and share all our stories from the front line of this war. And if you believe in our mission, please consider chipping in to help cover the costs. Thetruthaboutthewar.com will bring you the good, the bad, the ugly, and sometimes even the beautiful.